Steve, you've got an interesting little thing you want to say, and it comes with a question. What is the most dangerous possession that the married women that are listening to us right now, if they have it, what's the most dangerous possession they can own?
Well, I think the most dangerous thing you can carry around with you is justifiable resentment. And it begins with your father. If something happened with your dad and you, and anybody you tell this to, they would say, "Oh my goodness, well no wonder," or "You should be angry." And that enables you to carry that anger and resentment toward your dad, even if you don't have it toward your dad. And you bring that same justifiable resentment into a marriage, and you hold that against your husband. Maybe he has done something really crummy. And anybody hearing that he had an emotional affair or he's unkind to you would say, "Wow, you ought to be angry about that. You ought to resent that." And you feel totally justified in hanging on to that resentment. That will allow you, enable you, make you feel entitled to anything that you want. And that's what I love about the Bible. This God of ours is so smart, because the whole thing rests on being able to have, just like a computer, a reboot key for the marital relationship. And that is forgiveness and acceptance. If you resent him and you justify that resentment, you don't want to enable evil. If he's got a drug problem or beating you or whatever, you need to be sure that you're safe and you get that stopped, you get treatment. But if there are these things in your life that you need to forgive him for, and you need to accept the things in him, when you start to do that, it frees him to be a man. And it also takes your focus off of all the things out there and brings it right back where it needs to be, and that's his heart. You have a chance at connection at that point. But if you hang on to your justifiable resentments and continue to build that case against him, you most likely will end up in some kind of divorce. Whether you're living in the same house or not, you'll never connect with that man's heart.
Yeah, let's punch that in a little bit further here, Shannon. There's some women that are saying, "I understand what you're saying, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not ready." What would you tell them?
That pride comes before the fall. That when we can humble ourselves and acknowledge our part in the dance of discontentment, then things can truly change. And so many women say, "Well, I often fantasize about who the next man in my life will be after my husband dies, or maybe he will leave me, but I would never leave him, because then what would the church think about me," kind of a thing. But they start entertaining those thoughts, and they think that they'll be so much happier with someone else, and that's why they fall into emotional affairs and sexual affairs. But what I want to say to her is, a different person is not going to change the relational dynamic, because the common denominator in each of those relationships is you. And that until you change you, you're not going to change the relational dynamic. And until you're happy with yourself, you're not going to be happy with any other man. No man can fulfill you and make you feel good about yourself. That has to be something that comes from God and from within yourself.